Welcome to Wednesday Debate Live with Tagreed Hussein here on Nile TV International. Tonight we'll be talking the role of urban planning in achieving sustainable development. As we all know that from planning several urban developmental projects to smashing the Guinness records in terms of establishing the world's biggest projects, we find that the New Republic is continuing in order to build excellence, building innovation and also developments thanks to the Sustainable Development Strategy and Egypt's Vision 2030. Sustainable Development Strategy is based mainly on the principles of inclusive sustainable development and the balanced regional development, hence emphasizing the full participation of all the country's apparatus and also ensuring how it yields to all parties. Well, tonight with our distinctive guest, Professor Dr. Mohamed Naguib Abu Zaid, Professor at AUC, will be reading into this topic, knowing more about urban planning and the correlation between urban planning and sustainability. Dr. Abu Zaid, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you, and together we'll be reading how can a country be quite inspiring in taking a proactive role in urbanization and utilizing its resources while pushing for sustainability. But first, let's read the main presidential stories and the news in the headlines. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi affirmed Egypt's keenness to provide a suitable environment to attract and increase investments in all sectors, especially oil and gas, praising the distinctive successes of the Apache company in Egypt over the past 30 years. The spokesperson for the presidency stated that this came during the president meeting with the Apache CEO and also two vice presidents of the company to follow up on the activities in Egypt and the plans to increase the volume of its business in the various fields of research, exploration and production of oil and gas in the country. The meeting also tackled means of enhancing economic cooperation between Egypt and the United States in light of the strategic relations between the two countries. The president appreciated the successes of the company in Egypt over the past 30 years, stressing the state's keenness to attract and to increase investments in the different sectors. For his part, the CEO of Apache had valued the positive experience of cooperation with Egypt over the past decades, stressing that it represents a success story and a role model in the region in light of the availability of the various promising opportunities to achieve new discoveries that encourages the company to enhance its efforts and increase production rates in the coming period. The president also received the Italian Minister of Defense, Guido Crosetti, in the presence of Egypt's Minister of Defense and Military Production and also Major General Giuseppe Dragoni, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the Italian Armed Forces, as well as the ambassador of Italy in Cairo. The meeting witnessed the affirmation of mutual keenness to continue strengthening the close ties between the two countries and advance bilateral cooperation within the framework of different levels during the coming period, especially the military and the security fields. The Italian Minister of Defense had praised Egypt's essential role in maintaining stability in the region and the Mediterranean and discussed illegal immigration and the need for concerted efforts in order to enhance and advance mechanisms to face the cross-border challenges, with the Italian side appreciating the active Egyptian efforts in that regard. The presidency spokesperson added that the two sides agreed on the importance of advancing political solutions to the various crises in the region, what the region is going through, within the framework of preserving the unity of states and their territorial integrity. More on the Prime Minister activity earlier in the day in a press conference held at the Council's headquarters in the new administrative capital. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli said that a set of new incentives will be prepared for the real estate developers and will be presented and announced soon. Madbouli added that there will be a permanent unit in the Council of Ministers to receive requests and to discuss matters related to the establishment of the startups to encourage Egypt's youth further. The Prime Minister explained that a document will be drawn up for the state's tax policies within 5 years and will be announced within 3 months, hence indicating a regulatory decision to set a time limit for dispersing compensation to the investors in case of the expropriation not exceeding 3 months. Madbouli added that the next year the government will target investments for the private sector reaching £1 trillion and 640 billion pounds. Dr. Abu Zaid, as we've seen in the top stories of the day and His Excellency meeting with Apache CEO, definitely we're working on attracting further direct foreign investment, and this is co-linked again with sustainability while we're talking sustainable development.
Definitely. Apache has been one of the companies, several companies, international ones, that Egypt has been successfully cooperating with, and with tangible results on the field. In fact, Egypt has been, over the past 1 decade specifically, trying to increase its intake, its discovery from petroleum, while of course we hear about the great, alhamdulillah, successes in attracting as well as in having discoveries in gas, particularly in the Mediterranean area. Also, what I like about these meetings is that the President is deeply involved in supervising these levels of cooperation, and while there is always a main target, which is in that case the petroleum and gas part, but always attracting investment, always strengthening the relationship, whether it's with the U.S. in that case, whether with Italy in the other headline news that you kindly mentioned. So it's a promising one. Oil and gas industry these days, for the viewers, it's becoming much more environmental cautious and let's say involving in its own activities than before. And therefore, the oil and gas industry is trying to compete in an environmental green level with renewable energy and other sources of energy.
Yes, it is. And actually on His Excellency's schedule, today the meeting with the Italian Minister of Defense, and we can see that they have discussed eye-to-eye vis-a-vis security and stability in the region as well as the Mediterranean. Egypt is playing a very important role in maintaining security and stability in the Middle East, definitely, and the Mediterranean region.
Definitely. Italy, as an example, one of the countries I've visited so many times, numerous times, alhamdulillah. This country is having some kind of like very deep and of course deeply rooted historically speaking, as well as in the modern history relations with Egypt. Egypt cooperates with Italy on a military level on various angles and on various fronts. We share military maneuvers. We are, as you nicely placed it and stated it, let's say responsible, or making ourselves responsible or keen for maintaining the Mediterranean as a safe, we call it a safe lake for navigation and so on. Another very important, crucial part, which is the illegal immigration. Italy is one of the countries that has been suffering for a long time for illegal immigrants. Egypt, on a European level, was the main partner to try to secure the prevention or the limiting, the drastic limiting of such illegal immigration. An important note is that there is another good, strong level of cooperation between Egypt and Italy on workmanship. Egypt is a country, or the main country in Europe, that's suffering from a reduction in population. That's even made the Pope few days ago encouraging people, really that you should always be keen to have families and you have your kids and so on, because Italy is suffering from that. Egypt is one of the main suppliers of trained skilled labor to Italy. So I mention all these things while there is a military cooperation, but it's multi-dimensional relationship. Italy is the third economic power in Europe. I want to say, and to mention with pride, before we came on air, you were talking briefly with me about COVID. Let's not forget Egypt. When Italy had that severe COVID strikes, Egypt was there to help Italy. One of the touching moments, and I don't mean it in a way of a favor, but Egypt was there for its friends, like we expect our friends to be with us.
Yes, as always, there for its friends. And as we can see, that stability and sustainable developments are actually two faces of the same coin. Professor Abu Zaid, we're talking about encouraging the private sector. We followed earlier in the day the important press conference by His Excellency Prime Minister of Egypt, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, asserting, of course, a set of new incentives. And we're always preparing incentives, especially these days also, that would encourage more the private sector to take place in the developmental projects. And it's great to see everybody hands-on for the sake of the noble cause and the great objectives.
Yes, indeed. I happened to listen to the Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa's press conference or meeting about that. What I liked and admire about this meeting, it was not like a general meeting talking about wishes. He stated specific items and actions to be taken to encourage and to attract foreign investment in particular, and investment in general. If I were to give one of the example of what he has mentioned is extending the duration by 20% without any penalty, without any action taken for the investors to finish what the promise to start. COVID, again, other delays, the international economy, the war, Russia, Ukraine, all these international problems would make some kind of hiccups in any project, if you took international or globally speaking. So making some actions with respect to that. I can remember vividly also him talking about, the Prime Minister talking about facilitating the steps to be taken for investment. Something we as Egyptians, we always face ourselves with our problems, has been a problem or a hindrance over decades. Now facilitating, taking these steps to be in a very short duration. And he mentioned and talked about startups. The future is for small and medium businesses, not only the tycoon and big businesses and companies. How to facilitate the startups, particularly for the young generations with innovation, as you kindly mentioned.
Yes, it's very important, and the startups are actually, yes, they are the future, and it reflects on the youth self-confidence and enthusiasm to start a new project, and gives hope also that we are working on something new, startups, like from starting something, starting a project, promoting local actually and foreign private investments. In Egypt, we have the Supreme Council for Investment, which is headed by the head of state, and it approved yesterday 22 decisions in order to give a powerful impetus to the various economic sectors and the different fields in the country. So we're putting, Professor Abu Zaid, more emphasis on further attracting foreign direct investment.
Yes, and when you look closely to these decisions, the 22 decisions or actions to be taken, you would notice that most of them concentrate on attracting investment, as we just alluded to minutes ago, that has to do with innovative ideas, with IT, with artificial intelligence, because we do not want to start and put an effort and investment in doing more of the same. We can do that, we should do that, but more importantly, the profit, the future, the value added will come from innovation, from things that will add not only to Egypt, but also to the region, to Africa. An important aspect for investors, and I think you and the viewers, I'm sure you have talked and hosted here so many investors, they will always talk to you that people look at Egypt as the beacon where they can start their business and they can spread and penetrate into Africa in particular, as well as in the MENA region, not just the Middle East, but the MENA region in particular. So you're talking about Egypt attracting investment, putting emphasis on putting them into projects with specific deliverables. In your nice introduction, we're talking about Egypt Vision 2030. These are clearly spelled out. So I'm glad that we have a vision, we have a target, and we're trying to reach 2030 is not too far away. We're talking about 7 years or less to reach 2030, inshallah. But we are working tirelessly to achieve what's in this vision and prepare for the newer one in 2050.
Yes, 2050. We're also preparing for a very important, in line with our new urban agenda, which is the country has set a national urban vision and strategies actually affiliated to Egypt's Vision 2030. We find this urban plan and urbanization is always linked to sustainability, linked to sustainable development. Let's watch this report and we'll be back.
Sustainable development management as a foundation for the new republic's economic, social and environmental future is one of Egypt's top priorities to ensure long-term successes and improvement in the lives of the Egyptians. In this regard, planning for a sustainable urban development in Egypt has been oriented towards long-term goals, utilizing all the knowledge about the environmental consequences of different solutions. In line with Egypt's new urban agenda, the country has set national urban visions, strategies, Egypt Vision 2030, and the National Strategic Urban Plan for 2052 that responds to Egypt's need to integrate all policies, plans, and legislation in both urban and rural areas under one comprehensive development strategy. Over the past few years, Egypt has undergone a wave of state-led, demand-driven projects of informal settlements, upgrading, establishing new communities, rehabilitation of heritage areas, large public transit projects, infrastructure mega projects, and social welfare programs, all of which being guided by Egypt's Vision 2030, which is ultimately driven by the Sustainable Development Goals. While there are improvements on many fronts, sustainable development management remains essential to ensure that Egypt's national projects and policy reforms have the desired impact and will consistently help foster economic growth for generations to come. Egypt has taken steps in the direction of its Vision 2030 by undertaking reforms in different areas, including building infrastructure and highways connecting remote areas to boost the economy further. It's worth mentioning that Egypt's future and sustainability is a strategy that has been developed according to a planning approach, taking into consideration the rights of new generations in a prosperous life.